Hey everyone, Matt here on another edition of Ask Ron. This week, I'm sitting down with one of our mentors, Tony Pearl, and we're going to go over these questions. Tony, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you, Matt. A pleasure. First of all, I am not Ron LeGrand. Don't play him on TV, but it's a pleasure to be here. Ron is busy living his life, and he asked me to fill in for him today. I'll do my best I can. And my name is Tony Pearl. I am a mentor, one of Ron's happy mentors here. I come to you from Fairfax County, Virginia, just west of the swamp known as Washington, D.C. So we're going to have some fun today. Pleasure working with you, Matt. I look forward to answering these questions.
All right. The first question we have is from Richard from Pennsylvania. By the way, everyone, if you didn't know, go Eagles.
Ooh.
We have a Cowboys fan here, so.
Cowboys fan. That's right. That's okay.
That's all right. Richard,
what's the question? Hello, Richard. What's the question?
Richard says, is there any protection in the contracts for us if we lease purchase for 3 to 5 years, but then during that time, the market and home value drop much lower than our price, and even our buyer cannot obtain financing due to the low appraised value?
Okay, that's an excellent question. Thanks for asking it again, Richard. So what Richard wants to know is if we get a property under agreement to do a sandwich lease option, this is how I understand it, sandwich lease option from the seller. We go to lease option it out to a buyer, tenant buyer. Now, during that time, within 3 to 5 years, he says, which is a good time frame, say that the property, we have a market correction, which is always possible. But if the property value drops down over what we have agreed to buy it from the seller for, and it's now worth less, what do we do? So the answer is, first of all, the contracts and agreements that we use do protect us naturally. And the paperwork that we use gives us the right, but not the obligation to buy a property. So we're not locked in. It's not like someone's going to come and go after you or your family or break your legs or anything, even in Philadelphia. So what you do is you go back to if the buyer's ready to cash out and everything, and let's say you have it under contract to buy from the seller for 300 and the buyer goes, now it's worth 250 and that's what they want to buy it for. First thing you got to do is go back to the seller, assuming that there's equity, hopefully, and say, Mr. Seller, I have good news and bad news. We're finally ready to cash out of this property, get the loan paid off, and get everything worked out. However, as you know, there's been a huge market correction. This property that was once worth 300, which we have it under agreement to buy for, is now worth considerably less. So we can still possibly move forward. The good news is with getting this thing closed out, but the bad news is that we're not able to buy it for the amount that we had agreed on simply because of the market. It is what it is. So we have a couple options here. We can adjust the numbers and bring it down to something that we can all work with, or we can just keep making payments and going forward from here, or we can give you the property back if the lease period has or is close to expiring. Okay, if it's a 3-year option agreement and you're coming up on that 3rd year, we can either let it expire or we can extend it out. So then we just let the seller know what's going on and we say, hey, what would you like to do? Can we adjust the numbers? And you just give them the options, let them choose, negotiate from there, and do the best that you can. And you would pretty much do the same thing with the buyer where you go to them and say, hey, this is what we have happening, and we're going to see if we can get the property value to be lowered so we can cash you out. I know we had agreed to this. Or you can say, you know what, we're not going to sell for that. You have to work with the original amount that we have right here. We can continue making payments, or you can move out. What would you like to do? So again, this gives us the right, but not the obligation to do things. And we would just simply go and give other people, the seller and the buyer, the options and let them choose which one they want. Of course, at the same time, there's always a possibility that someone could get a little bit angry and want to sue, but our paperwork does protect us there the best that we can. And we always close an attorney's office. But the basic idea, as long as we're communicating with people, letting them know what the options are and being fair and honest with them, things almost always work out to the best. Okay, hopefully that answers your question. Thanks for asking.
Richard has one more, and he says, hi, Ron, or in this case, hi, Tony. I just watched Jay Connor's The Private Money Authority weekly lesson video, and here's my question. Are returns paid back from a self-directed IRA tax-free, or are they tax-deferred?
Excellent question. Now, first thing I have to say is a disclaimer, not an attorney. Again, don't play one on TV, right? So as I understand it, check with your CPA on this for further clarification, or what you can do, I'll tell you in a second. But as I understand it, if you are less than 59 and a half years young, whatever you invest in direct to your self-directed IRA, or IRA as it may be called, and whatever profits you make from the investment that you go into, you put right back into that self-directed IRA with they're going to be tax deferred. The profits grow tax free until you go to pull it out. If you pull the profits or the investment out before you're age 59 and a half, you're going to pay, I think it's a 10% penalty in addition to the taxes based on your current tax rate based on your personal income taxes. Most people wait until they're retired to take the profits out if they can, which is much more advised because typically you're at a much lower tax bracket when you go to take the money out. Now, again, after you're age 59 and a half, I'm not that age yet myself, so I have a few more years to go, thank God. But you may want to check with your accountant. Or again, best thing you can do is call Quest. That's the company we deal with. Quest is a TPA, third-party administrator. They can answer those questions for you specifically. So it's good to know these things before you go into it. Now, if you're, I don't know how old you are, Richard, but if you're less than 59 and a half years old, you want to set up a good strategy, that's a good idea. So this is a great killer strategy to use to grow your profits tax-free, because none of us enjoy paying taxes unless you're a masochist. So
That is for sure.
Thanks for the question, Richard.
All right.
Okay.
Moving on to the next question, we have Cherry from California.
Of
Cherry
course.
says, would it be feasible to expect a tenant buyer for a doctor prospective client if he agrees with selling on terms as long as he can rent back his downstairs office?
Thank you. And hello, Cherry from California. I see that you were one of the queen of questions when we have the virtual events. I peek in every now and then. Your name always pops up. So that's awesome that you're asking some great questions. You're giving other question askers a run for their money. Anyway, as I understand your question, you're saying, would it be okay to agree to buy on terms from a seller who also happens to be a doctor who wants to lease out his downstairs office in the property? As I understand it, that's the question. I may be wrong, but according to what I'm seeing here, that's what it is. So if that's the case, I would say I don't necessarily see a problem with it, but you definitely want to CYA. You know what I'm saying? You know what the A stands for. So definitely want to talk with your real estate attorney and ask for them to earn that money by giving you some good counsel on the situation. And you may have to have some things built in to protect yourself. It's totally fine according to what I'm seeing. But again, protect yourself and ask those right questions of your attorney so that you can have things reduced to paper just for any contingency that may come up. Okay. Hopefully you get a good deal on that deal.
All right. Moving on, we have Phillip from Kansas. All right.
Hello, Phillip.
Phillip says, in our state of Kansas, our best option for getting buyers out is to use a lease with option to purchase, but our attorney says that we are still required to be responsible for some form of repair. How do I get around this problem? Because I don't want to be responsible for anything once the house is optioned to the tenant buyer.
Okay, you have a couple options. Either get a new attorney or ask this attorney to go and take a look at the paperwork that we have, because we don't want to be responsible for the repairs when we lease option a property out. Now, I'm not sure what the laws are in Kansas. I can't know every state. Nobody can. But to my understanding is our contracts and our paperwork are very well set up to protect us for these situations. So we want to put the properties out there so that the tenant buyer is responsible for any repairs going forward after the first 30 days. Okay, so have your attorney go through this and make sure he fully understands what would need to be done with our paperwork. Or there's no harm in asking, like going to a doctor, ask another opinion, go to another attorney and ask another opinion there. That's what I would recommend for you to consider doing. Okay, thanks for your question, Phillip.
Nice.
Go Jayhawks.
See, I should have said that with Richard for Go Eagles.
Boo.
Oh. Sorry,
Cowboys fan here. Don't be hating. It's a tough time for us.
All right. Moving on to the next one, we have Terry from California.
Hello, Terry. California's in the house today.
That's right. All right. Terry says, I cannot afford to get an LLC at this time. Can I title a property in a land trust? Then when I get a lease option deposit from the tenant buyer, get an LLC?
Terry, the answer to your question is yes. And since I understand you live in California, LLCs and forming corporations are very expensive there. Matt, I think it's like $800 a year just to maintain an LLC in California. Isn't that crazy? It's nuts. So I can understand your trepidation there, Terry. So the answer is yes. You can tie a property up, and you can even take title in an LLC. You can create the entity that you want or transfer it anytime that you want using a land trust. You'll just need to definitely pick who you want to be the trustee of the trust, as well as who will be the beneficiary. And guess what? You can always change those at any time. If you want to make it a private individual now to be your trustee, if you want, and then make it your LLC that you create later on, that's fine. So you don't have to wait to get an LLC to still do real estate. And I hear that question a lot from a lot of people. Well, I got to form a corporation before I do a deal. Does it sound like Ron? So we don't have to form a corporation before you do a deal. Of course, it's preferable. And the more assets you have, the more you're going to need to protect. That's why we have corporations. And that's why we have asset protection and all that good stuff. So tie up the property. You can still take title in a land trust. You can form your LLC anytime that you want. And who would be the best to do that is Bob Bloom with who we work with. Ron brought on to the team. He's excellent at doing these things. So you may want to talk with him if you get the chance, and go from there. So again, the answer is yes. You can create the LLC anytime that you want. Still take title in the land trust. Thanks for your question. Thanks for your question, Terry.
All right. For our listeners, you can search on our Gold Club Bob Bloom, and his contact information will pop up there as well. So
in case Bloom is spelled B-L-U-H-M.
Yep, you got it. All right. The next question we have is from Shawn from Ohio.
Hey, Shawn, finally a Buckeye in the house. All right. All right. So what's the question?
Shawn goes, I purchased a home on a wrap about a year and a half ago. I'm selling it now, and I'm supposed to close on March 11th. The title came back yesterday on 3/3/21, and the old seller, my wrap note, is going to bankruptcy court today on 3/4/21. How might this affect me, and is there something I should proactively do?
Okay, good question, Shawn. And today is, as we record, is March 12th. It's the day after it should have closed. So hopefully you closed and everything went through. The good news is, since you bought on a wrap, I sure as hell hope and assume, crossing fingers, that you took title to this property in a land trust, took it out of the seller's name, because anything that a seller or a person owns when they go into bankruptcy, or if they get a judgment against them, is going to be wrapped up and encumbered, and title will be skewed with all that when somebody goes into bankruptcy or if they get a judgment. So if you took title in a land trust, hopefully things still went through smoothly. And since the seller went to bankruptcy court on the 4th, which was a little more than a week ago, hopefully there was some kind of resolution that was realized at that bankruptcy court. I don't know if it was a Chapter 7. I don't know if it was a 13. 7 is a dismissal of all debt. Maybe it got through, in which case you're awesome. If it was a 13, a reorganization, repayment, I'm sure that somebody had to, hopefully your title agent or someone contacted the lender to get a payoff notice. So hopefully by now everything went through. But when you take title in the land trust, one of the many advantages is that it takes the title out of the seller's name and removes them from legal consideration in that respect. Of course, there's still a lien against the property, and that has to be dealt with. I don't know if that was included in the bankruptcy or not. I don't have enough information. But get back to us. Let us know what happened with this deal. We would love to know what happened there. And if you have a further question after this, I'm sure Ron will be able to take it away next week. Okay. So good question, man. Good stuff.
Good question.
Yeah.
All right. I think we have one more, and that is from Patrick down here in Florida.
What's up, Patrick? Florida in the house. Nice to see you.
I think he's enjoying the weather today. All right. Patrick says, do you still need to complete the authorization to release information form if the property is owned free and clear?
Do you still need to complete the authorization to release information form if the property is owned free and clear? So an authorization to release information form is a standard paper that we always take to just about every seller's house to get that thing signed in case they have a lien, a mortgage against the property. because the authorization to release information form gives us the seller's owner's authorization to talk to the bank, the lender, on their behalf. So the question for you, Patrick, is if there's no lien, there's no mortgage, why the heck would you need that form signed? What are they going to do? Who are we going to send it to? There's no one to send it to. So the answer to your question is no, but I always recommend to always bring that authorization form, 2 blank copies of each form that we take to the seller's house, which is a purchase and sales agreement, 2 blank copies of that, in addition to anything that you prepared, any contracts that you prepared. If you're working with a mentor, we will have helped you with that. 2 blank copies of an authorization to release information form, and 2 blank copies of the lease purchase form, the short one without the table of contents. Bring 2 blank copies to every seller's appointment that you go to. You won't need it for this situation. I mean, you want to bring it just in case, because you never know. Maybe they told someone, even you, that they didn't have one, and then you get to the house and they do. But you're not going to need to complete it if there's no loan against or lien against the house. Okay, so that answers your question there. I like to end on an easy note. So thanks for your questions, everyone. Thank you very much, Matt. Guys, remember, in a couple of weeks we have the Quick Start Boot Camp coming up on March 23rd to 26th. This is our first live event in a year, ever since this pandemic started. And we're going to have a great time. I'm going to be there. The rest of the mentors are going to be there. We're going to have a blast. Ron's going to be there, of course. So it's going to be a lot of fun. If you can at all make it down, you definitely want to. Florida is a beautiful time. It's a beautiful time of year to be in Florida. I'm looking forward to it. I hope you are as well. We have a summit coming up shortly after that. So book your reservation. Make sure, well, you don't even need to reserve anything except the online ticket, the online attending, which is free. So why not do that? You don't have to check into a hotel. It's virtual, right from the comfort of your own computer right there. Geez, I sound like Ron, don't I? Hey, this has been fun, Matt. I appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.